Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, David.
In front of the waterfall. We're here to converge, whatever that means. And I wanted to start off sort of on that theme, kind of bring a lot of things together. I'd love to start off actually on sports. I know Mark and Ray were talking a lot about AI. I want to get to that, and certainly Alibaba, China, U.S., if we can a bit. But you own a lot of sports teams in our neck of the woods in New York, where you spent some time as well. Of course, the Brooklyn Nets, the New York Liberty, champions of the WNBA, a couple of lacrosse teams, I believe, as well. When you think about these investments, I'm curious, many who invest in sports certainly are aware of the asset values rising over time, seemingly inevitably in many of these areas. Is that the play? Ultimately to create value over time through the asset value and a potential sale at some point? Or do you really look for a return season after season?
For a sports owner, the return season after season is every season you're trying to win the championship. So you want to win games, right? You're not looking at the income statement of the team from season to season. So I guess the final payoff for me is less financial. Even though the financial aspects are important, I have to make sure that's sort of bottom line, the investment can make sense. But at the end of the day, it's through the love of sports. I have a passion for sports. That's why I invested in these teams. Now, I have a few principles when I do make these investments. Those are sort of, financial, commercial principles. Number one, I want to invest in a league that is where the best players in the world play. So if you look at the NBA, the NFL, around the world, the best players play. It's different in soccer. The best players are playing in Europe. And I don't want to touch European soccer because they don't have a salary cap, and it's a very, very different system, right? And you're also competing with sovereigns when you get into that. But best players around the world come play in the league. And the second thing is you look at the media value. So you really need to pay attention to audience, either online, streaming. I think the world is moving towards streaming. But still, linear TV is still quite important. So the NBA just, completed a massive deal, 11-year deal with a number of broadcasters.
Including my own. Of course, NBC.
Of course. Welcome back to the NBA.
We paid quite a price for that as well, Joe.
It's worth it.
Is it going to be worth it? Because ratings actually have not been as strong, and I think there is some concern. Are you concerned at all about NBA
I'm not
ratings?
concerned about it. I think I just saw some stats. The latest Lakers-Celtics game, something like 4.5 million viewers for a regular season game. That's really extraordinary. I don't worry about it because these are the best players in the world, and they do compete, and they're stars. When the lights are on, the stars turn on.
You were talking about, though, how you evaluate in terms of some of your rules. So media rights, obviously, is important.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt you. What else?
Well, I think the Americans have done it right in their sports leagues where if you look at both the NFL and the NBA, there's a salary cap. And the cap is really less about depressing the cost of players. It's more about coming to a balance of a fair balance between the owners and the players. So, for example, in the NBA, the players share 50% of the revenue of the entire league. Anything that's basketball-related income, the players share roughly around 50% of that. Now, that's on the top, revenue share, as opposed to profit share. So they are getting the majority of the profits of basketball. And but as long as you set the rules, and the rules are very clear how you split the economics, then between the players and the team owners, then I think that's a very good framework to work with. The other thing about American sports leagues is it's kind of like a socialist system. Doesn't matter whether you win or lose, and whether you win the championship or not. the sharing of economics is actually quite fair. So, for example, TV revenues are shared evenly among 30 NBA teams, equally. Doesn't matter if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, where you're on national TV maybe 25 times a season, you still share the same TV revenues.
You still see opportunity, though, in terms of buying sports franchises now? I mean, you bought the Brooklyn Nets in what, 2016, 17, somewhere in there?
17.
And obviously it's done quite well, I would assume, in terms of the overall asset value. But is the same opportunity there, or where are you, if you were to look? I mean, is it lacrosse? Is it emerging sports? How do you view it at this point?
I would continue to look at these first-tier sports. I know they seem to be very expensive. I think the latest NFL team just traded for something like somewhere between $7 to $8 billion of enterprise value. The NBA team, average NBA team is like $4+ billion enterprise value now. They all look expensive, but then again, as long as you can grow the fan base, you grow the viewership on television, on streaming. These are global audiences, right? And so there's a lot of upside to go. When I invested first in 2017, everybody thought I overpaid for it, but 7, 8 years later,
you didn't.
I didn't overpay. So some of these apps, and here there's a very important reason for this. They call these teams franchises, and it's because it's not like anybody can just start a team. Someone has to grant you the franchise to have a team. So supply is by definition limited. The league controls how many teams are in the league. So for any kind of expansion discussions will have to go through the league, and all the owners have to vote on it. And it's a very economic decision. They have to look at the potential dilution of additional teams coming in, sharing all the revenues like TV revenues and whatnot, versus does an additional team help increase the fan base, increase viewership, and all the rest of the economics that follow.
You've mentioned, I think, in other interviews and the like, that you want control. You obviously have control of the Nets, you have control of the Liberty and on from there, and the arena. But you spent, $200 million to buy a very small stake in the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Which gives you no control whatsoever. Why do that?
My philosophy approaching the Dolphins is very different from basketball. In the case of NFL, first, I'm a football fan. I love the NFL. I play high school football. And the opportunity came up. Steve Ross wanted to sell a minority stake, get some liquidity so that he could put the capital to work in West Palm Beach. He's a big developer there. And I saw the opportunity, and I told the team in my family office, look at this thing as a pure financial investment. I told Steve, I'm not even going to call myself an owner of the team. I'm a guest when I come to Miami. I hope to sit with you in the owner's box if you invite me to come. But I have an economic stake in 3% of the team. The whole business is not just an NFL team, but it's also Hard Rock Stadium. They have Taylor Swift concerts and things like that, very popular. And they have the franchise for F1 Miami, as well as the Miami Open tennis tournament. So it's a collection of great assets under one roof that I invested in.
Could you ever imagine yourself, though, as an NFL owner?
No, I still don't feel like I'm an NFL owner. I have not been.
Well, you actually control the team.
Well, no.
Why not?
I got to take care of the Brooklyn Nets first, which means you need to win first in in the sports that you're already involved in. So before, you got to take care of business there.
You mentioned the venue in Miami. You obviously control the Barclays Center in New York City as well, or own it.
Yeah.
How is that evolving the fan experience, and how important is it as an owner of the franchises that play in the arena to actually have control of the arena so that you can evolve that experience? I mean, is it early days sort of as what you can offer fans?
Well, it's like in any business. If you're McDonald's, it's a franchise. It's IP. But it's better if you own the real estate. Otherwise, every few years, the landlord has to negotiate rent with you, or you have to negotiate rent with the landlord. You have to beg. In the case of sports, the team is the IP business, and the real estate is a venue-based, place-based kind of business. So in our Barclays Center, we not only host basketball games, we have obviously the NBA and the WNBA, but most nights we have concerts. We're generating revenue from renting out the space to artists, and that's a great business. In fact, Barclays Center in the last year is considered, or the actual, according to the objective metrics, is one of the top 3-4 venues in the world. This includes, all the great venues like O2 in London and all the other great arenas in the world. It's one of the top venues in the world in terms of concerts.
Has it proved to be a better investment than the team?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I think in the case of real estate, your upside is kind of limited. You're collecting rent, but teams, the IP value will continue to rise as long as you can continue to build a fan base.
We are talking about convergence here, and I did want to quote something you said recently. You said, we're seeing a media, sports betting, and crypto converging a little bit. And you went on to say, and I'm quoting, maybe for the betting fan base, injecting a little bit of crypto will be interesting. What does that mean?
That's maybe like 4 years ago. I feel like I'm so out of fashion talking about crypto.
Why? Crypto is all the rage again.
Well, it's kind of back, but it's still, I think the value, nobody's talking about NFTs right now, right? People are kind of going back to the basics, the Bitcoins, Ethereum, maybe a little bit of Solana, all these.
But this overlap of sports betting and crypto, and certainly there is that. Even, in fact, we talk about it. People bet on their phone. They make investments on their phone.
I'll give you another thing. It's sports betting, crypto, and also stock market.
Right.
If young people today, especially young men, they love betting on sports. They love playing crypto, and they love to trade in stocks. And if they can do everything in one app, isn't that beautiful? That's great.
Can they do that yet or no?
I think so. I think a number of companies are trying to do that.
We do sometimes talk about a merger of DraftKings and Robinhood. It's not completely.
Why not?
Right? It's not completely.
I think they will try to get into each other's turf first and compete a little bit before a merger happens.
Okay, we'll see. There we go. One merger predicted potentially. I want to move on to Alibaba. You've been back as chairman since I think it was late May of 23.
23,
right?
Yeah.
So, you returned, in a letter to shareholders about a year ago, your 24 letter, you wrote that Alibaba had acquired large company characteristics, and you would be going back to seeing yourself as a startup. How important is that mindset?
It's the reason why we exist. We have to exist as a fast-moving startup, see ourselves as a small company, and nimble, and be humble. Large companies move very slow, and it's because the decision-making structure is too complicated. And to get something approved, if you have to go through 19 layers of approval, it doesn't work. So we really needed to get back to nimbleness and act fast. And why is that? It's because our competitors are all startups. We're competing in the e-commerce space, all these upstarts, different formats, like the ByteDance Douyin format, the live, short video format, all the social type of commerce. They're all startup companies. And how can you compete if your decision is very, very slow and it takes like 10 days to make a small decision against a startup that they'll make that decision in 10 minutes.
How do you change that culture? And I should say, just by point of history, you and I got to know each other into the run-up of your IPO, which was, 2015?
Yeah.
And now I think about ByteDance and Pinduoduo. Even Tencent we weren't talking about then. It was around, obviously. The competition in your market intensified greatly. So how do you get the large company, and clearly that was not you were not heaping praise on that idea, but how do you get that mindset amongst your employees back?
Well, first of all, the e-commerce industry is the most competitive industry in the world of any industry. There's really basically no barriers to entry, and that's because the infrastructure of e-commerce, when it comes to logistics and payments, is already provided by a number of companies. It's not dominated or not monopolized by any single player. So payments and logistics is already there. So as an upstart, you don't need to worry about logistics. You don't need to worry about payment. You can just do your e-commerce. And that's why it's so competitive. We decided, when I came in, I partnered with our new CEO, Eddie Wu, coming into the company. The first thing that we said is we need to streamline the company. Instead of talking about Alibaba as 6 different business units, we talked about ourselves as having 2 core businesses, e-commerce and cloud computing. That simplified everything. And our communication, it's very important that we communicate that to our employees. They need to have a simple structure in their minds in order to move faster. And then the next thing is you empower people, especially younger people on the management team that are actually on the front lines dealing day-to-day with users and customers. I think that empowerment is very important. What does that mean? It means that actually letting them make some decisions and letting them make mistakes and train them so that they can recover from mistakes. You have to give them some rope to hand themselves.
How far along are you in the progress towards that goal?
I think from an organizational structure, from a people standpoint, and from messaging, cultural standpoint, we've pretty much completed our work. Right now, it's, in our e-commerce business, it's hand-to-hand combat. We got to compete against our competitors on a daily, hourly, minutes basis.
Another area, obviously, of growing competition potentially is AI, and I'd love to talk to you about that. It's connected to your cloud business in a variety of ways, obviously partially running the compute for your own and for others. You just released a new AI reasoning model, and I wonder, how do you view your efforts there? Is it as a standalone product, or is it really AI that's going to power your e-commerce business in some way?
Yeah, but before I directly answer your question, I wanted to just take a step back and talk about why Alibaba is so excited about AI and why a lot of people in the world are very excited and people are pushing to develop the best AI. It's because if you look at AI, what does it do? It actually improves human productivity. And look at global GDP, about $100 trillion US dollars of global GDP. 60% of that is labor income. So you got 60 trillion of human value that's contributing to GDP. And if you assume, let's say, 20% of that 60 trillion can be enhanced by AI, and AI can do the job at I would say, 20% discount on the price, that's a $10 trillion TAM. Total addressable market.
Big market.
Name another industry that has a $10 trillion TAM. Last time I checked, the transportation industry is $5 trillion. The healthcare insurance business is $5 trillion of TAM. I think someone's told me that the entire technology space, every single technology industry, the entire TAM is about $10 trillion. So AI comes in, it's at least $10 trillion of TAM, if not bigger. That's why everybody should be excited about AI. Your question about the large language model and the reasoning model, what is the purpose? We are developing AI for a number of reasons for in the case of Alibaba. Number one, we run a cloud computing business which will actually benefit from the proliferation of AI. Because every time someone trains a model or runs inference or do post-training, they need cloud computing infrastructure. And we sell compute. And we're kind of agnostic. Do they use our model or somebody else's model? They need to have compute. And we're the leader in that space in China, right? And the next thing is, if you look at all of our use cases, all of our scenarios in e-commerce and mapping and food delivery and all of that, we can benefit a lot from the deployment of AI within our own business. We have one part of our business where a significant part of the revenue is advertising. So advertising is all about conversion rates, whether you can get users to convert a click into purchase and all of that. That can be greatly enhanced by AI. So we see huge upside just within our own business. And then finally, you hear this when our CEO talks about it. He's talking about kind of the ideal goal of AGI, artificial general intelligence. I think today, if you want to call yourself a technology company or a pioneer in technology, you can't not say that you are not pursuing AGI, right? The pursuit of AGI is kind of that ultimate ideal. And I think it's pretty cool because it's actually a very interesting philosophical question for me. There's a scientific component of how long it will take for AGI to happen, for machines to be just as smart as human beings.
Or how we measure it, what it really means.
Yeah, what does AGI really mean, right? But then I think a lot about the philosophical questions of AI and AGI.
Such as?
Well, first of all, if you don't even know how smart the human brain can get, then how can you answer the question whether AI is smarter than the human brain? So we have to first explore the limits of the human brain. A lot of my philanthropy actually is devoted to the study of neuroscience and human cognition and psychology. So I'm curious about how smart you and I can get. But the one thing that I know is the brain is the most power efficient machine there is. When you look at all these computers and GPUs and AI large language models, man, they're very energy inefficient.
Yeah.
Right?
Gigawatts.
So that's a philosophical question. Another philosophical question I think about is, what does it really mean? Is it really actually meaningful to develop AGI and say, I have the best LLM, I have the best AI?
Well, let me stop you there, because you recently wrote in an editorial, I think you said the AI race is no longer about who has the smartest children. So saying the value of making the smartest AI in a vacuum will eventually approach zero. So what does that mean? Saying, when you said the value of making the smartest AI in a vacuum will approach zero.
Well, first of all, I have to say, a lot of people, a lot of technologists will disagree.
Yes, that's why I mentioned it. It was interesting.
With me.
Maybe including in your own company, I don't know.
Yeah, even within our company, we debate among scientists and I have to say, I'm not a computer scientist. I'm not a technologist. I mean, I have a law degree, so
served you well.
I'm not sure about that. But if you think about AI as the training and the education of kids, a lot of us have children. What is the meaning? What is the value of educating your child so that they can be a Nobel Prize winner in every subject matter there is in the world? What is the value of having kids that have read every single book in the library and they're very, very book smart? But as a parent, I still have to teach my kids EQ. I still have to teach my kids how to make friends, how to deal with other people, how to manage society and friendships and relationships. And all of that stuff, that's not pure knowledge acquisition, right? So same thing with developing AI. You need to inject a little bit of, to really truly to have something that behaves and acts like a human being and makes decisions like a human being, you have to develop a lot of other capabilities. I don't know if it's even possible For example, can you inject hormones into machines? Maybe technologically that's possible, but today I have not found a way to do that. And also the other thing is I found most of the people, 99% of the people that talk about AI and the pursuit of AGI are men. Well, we know that, with men and women, we have different ways of approaching things, different ways of thinking about things. And human beings, certainly, there's men and women are different, right? And what does it mean to have the smartest computer or smartest AI?
Right.
Is it a male or female? From which perspective? So you have to think about all of these issues.
But take me back to the commercial applications then,
Yeah.
and the strategy that you're advocating in a sense, which seems to be, it's not about having the biggest, not having the most compute power or the largest model. It's about how you use what you have, I guess.
How you apply it to the real use case, real world scenarios. So for example, in our e-commerce, there's a lot of use cases. Let's say you want to go on a camping trip and you want to buy camping stuff. You have no idea what to buy other than a tent. Well, you can ask AI to say, hey, I'm going on a camping trip in 15 days, and you can put in like where you want to go, and the AI will figure out what is the climate, what is the temperature, what you need to buy. Do you need, besides the tent, do you need to buy boots? And also, oh, by the way, you need water bottles. Oh, by the way, you need to have insect repellent. Like the AI will help you think of all these things that you would not think of. And then if in the e-commerce marketplace, it'll say you can buy all these things by clicking on these buttons or one single button, and it'll get delivered to your door before tomorrow.
Right.
Isn't that great? That's what AI can do, right?
Yeah. It's going to be able to do I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And the other thing, what I wrote in my op-ed is the benefits of open source. I think the so-called DeepSeek moment is really not about whether China has better AI than the US or vice versa. It's really about the power of open source, because once you open source the model, people can take the model and deploy it on their own infrastructure, whether it's in a data center or in your laptop computer. And all of a sudden, you have the power of AI at your fingertips. And what's happened with open source is it's going to foster a lot more development on top of these models. So now you have small companies and big companies and corporates and individuals and entrepreneurs developing on top of these open source. So the AI game is not just left to the 5 richest companies in the world that can afford to invest like $50 billion a year, right? So now the proliferation of applications will be a result of open source.
You mentioned philosophical debates within the company. Do you talk at all about what you see as the ultimate impact, though, of AI? We're all still in the early days here trying to figure it out, what it will mean for what the nature of work is, what will be valued, what it may mean ultimately for how many people even can have a job. Do you have any concerns?
I don't have any concerns because it can actually enhance what human beings do. We talked about back in the green room, for example, equity research analysts can be completely replaced by AI. You can ask them to put together a report on NVIDIA or Apple, and it'll do a great job. But here's the thing. I think the quality of research can really be improved if a lot of the mundane research-related stuff can be done by the machine, and then humans can apply their judgment and make better recommendations. I don't think it'll entirely replace human beings. It'll just actually enhance the quality of work. Same thing, I'm trained as a lawyer. In fact, the work of a lawyer is very similar to coding. When you write a contract, you're actually writing code. And the whole agreement, the whole document has to fit well together. Every sentence, every definition have to fit with each other. Well, AI can do a lot of that. I would say most of it. So does that mean in the future lawyers will be replaced by AI? Not necessarily, because what do you go to the most sophisticated lawyers for? You ask for counsel. Counsel is not something that is technical or black and white. It is judgment. It is about understanding the circumstances. And I still think that these jobs can just be enhanced by AI rather than being replaced.
That's a hopeful view. In the brief time we have left, I did want to hit China if I can. First of all, the Chinese consumer. We're not worried about the consumer in the United States. I'm sure people have heard and seen the stock market. But in China, there's been concern about the consumer for a long time. Not consuming enough, property problems, saving for, the savings rate has always been incredibly high. What is your sense of the state of the consumer right now in China?
Well, let me explain why the consumer is so important for China right now at this moment. As you know, China actually achieved 5% GDP growth last year. But what was driving that growth? That was from exports. But coming into this year, because of tariffs and geopolitics, the export sector is not going to be as strong coming out of China. And so what's left is the domestic consumption need a boost. We hope that after the two sessions that the government is working on a number of stimulus measures. And we haven't seen all the details yet, but we hope that at some point they will come out to really favor promotion of consumption. All right? And although today we haven't seen, sort of massive excitement in terms of consumption, but look at the Chinese consumer. They're very, very healthy. Household balance sheet is very, very strong. You're looking at over $20 trillion of bank deposits by households. So they're standing on the sidelines,
right,
waiting to spend.
What's going to get them to spend, though?
Well, confidence and sentiment. And that's why I want to mention this. A few weeks ago, President Xi Jinping had a meeting with entrepreneurs. And people underestimate the importance of that meeting. What that meeting did to the entire entrepreneurial sector, or people that are the private business sector, is it gave private business people confidence to make investments in their business. I mean, we just came out and announced that over the next 3 years, we want to invest over $50 billion in compute infrastructure and AI, right? So it gave us the confidence that, to put our earnings back into CapEx and investments, and also hire people, right? So when private businesses have that confidence, they will take action. Coupled with this excitement about AI, people in China saying, hey, we've got DeepSeek, we got Alibaba, we got Tencent, we got ByteDance, we got a lot of these companies that are all doing AI. We're not that bad, and there's going to be a lot of great applications of AI. So there's a lot of excitement over that. So the combination of private business confidence and the excitement about technology development will eventually translate into consumer confidence.
I believe that.
Why? It's because companies are making investments, companies are making hiring decisions, are actually hiring people again, companies are growing again, and ultimately that will trickle through consumer confidence.
We struggle sometimes in the U.S. to understand the significance of different moments in China. And so you're telling me that was important when Xi and Jack Ma, your founder, obviously was at that meeting. He hadn't been seen in public, at least in that kind of a forum, in a while. So that was an important moment in your mind.
I wouldn't underestimate the importance of that event.
And sending a message to the business community as well and to private enterprise?
The message was very, very clear. The government is looking to the private enterprises to come back and boost the economy.
Finally, speaking of the economy, you sell on your platform a lot of U.S.-made goods to Chinese consumers. Right now, tariffs are 20% being imposed on China. It's unclear what retaliation will take place. How concerned are you about a trade war, about what that will mean for your ability to service your Chinese consumers with U.S.-made goods?
Well, obviously, everybody is concerned about tariffs because if you're involved in the business of global trade, in our case, we actually are involved in two-way trade, selling to the U.S., Chinese selling to the U.S., and also Americans selling to China. On the Alibaba platform, annually, we sell $50 billion worth of American products to Chinese consumers and $30 billion worth of European products to Chinese consumers, right? So there's a lot of import and consumption going on in China of foreign branded products. And so, of course, we worry about potential tariffs. But, you know, I think it's kind of way beyond our pay grade to talk about it because it's really about the leaders of countries getting together and deciding that ultimately, you know, tariffs create too much friction and some level of global trade and interaction between companies is good. We want to have more American companies. I think the Trump administration will want to have more American companies doing business in China and making money there, right? So at some point, I'm pretty half glass full kind of attitude towards that. Eventually, you know, the tariffs being a negotiating tool, maybe, but at some point, things will sort of get better. I still think, though, certain protected industries will still be subject to tariffs. Like, you know, all this Chinese EV sectors exporting to the rest of the world, I'd expect that some tariffs are going to be put on them, which already people are.
Not going to get a $20,000 EV from China in the United States anytime soon, am I?
They'll increase the cost of people buying that. So,
yeah. Joe, we're out of time. Certainly appreciate all the time you gave us, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Thank you.